Hey, everybody, this is Brett Ingram, and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today, we're talking with Yvette Lloyd, entrepreneur, mentor, and host of Life Her podcast, a platform dedicated to empowering women and entrepreneurs by sharing real, unfiltered stories of triumph and resilience. I'm super excited because so many entrepreneurs have to endure struggle and learn just to keep going. So that's a true inspiration and proof of what we can do when we focus and work hard. So with that, welcome and thanks a lot for joining us.
Hey, how are you?
Awesome. Awesome, man. I'm super excited to talk to you. I think you have a fascinating background. So there's a lot of stuff that I want to talk to you about, but can we start off with your background? I want to talk about your personal story. You started your entrepreneurial journey really young. So how did you start your career and what inspired you to start a business so young?
You know, um, I was confused when I turned 18. I went to college to Kent State University, and I knew I wanted to go in the medical field. I knew I wanted to be a brain surgeon. Then my grandmother ended up paying for me to go to school to be an EMT as well. So I was like juggling both at the same time, and then I had to get a job, and I was working in childcare while I was in school too. So I ended up experiencing like a part time job doing like EMT. I had to do like service hours and stuff, and I realized that that was not my lane. And I just did not want to go in the medical field. So when I was working with kids at the daycare, I go from being a infant teacher, toddler teacher, preschool. I was just working my way up until I was in the office. Boy, that office was a game changer for me. And that was that moment when I switched my major to early childhood education, and like me being in the field and wanted me to, I had like different parents come to me that they worked for Chrysler, and so a lot of them worked second and third shift, and they loved how, I guess it was like I was like the talk of the plant at the time, and they loved their kids being around me. And then probably like two parents approached me and asked me could I watch their kids after hours because the daycare wasn't open at that time. And I started watching them at my home. I didn't have that. I was just like babysitting at the time. So I had my babysitting certifications and all of that stuff. Next thing you know, more kids started wanting to come, and I'm sitting like, maybe I need to switch over. I need to do something. So in 2008, that's when I started to get things in process, get my LCIN and everything in motion for me to actually have a child care. And I just started researching it myself. And that's when I actually started my in-home daycare. And when I got licensed, actually I waited later, like in 2012, when I had my girls program. And when I had my girls program, they had kids. So that's when I actually got licensed through the city and the state for me to actually have a in-home daycare and get paid through them as well.
So that's really interesting. So it's funny because you started off, you were doing a lot of different things, but you quickly realized the things that you were good at and that you really enjoyed. And I think that's, that in and of itself is a really important lesson. It's easy for us when we're on a given path. Sometimes it's easier just to stay on that path, but you could feel that it isn't right. You could feel that there's something about it that doesn't fulfill you. And so regardless of how easy it would be to continue, sometimes the smart decision is the tough decision. But lucky for you, you found something that you were obviously good at, and other people recognize that in you. And
Yes.
that's really valuable because that makes it easy to say, hey, maybe that is a strength of mine. Maybe this is something I should focus on. So okay, so that's how you got started out. And then what did you do? Like, how did you decide to branch out from there? And what made you think bigger than just the childcare business?
Well, when I was doing the child care, I had my daycare upstairs in my house, and I had the youth program in my home as well. And so I only did that once a week on Thursdays. And when the girls came, I was downstairs helping them. And the daycare, I really didn't have too many kids, so I was able to, maneuver both of them at the same time. And as I continued to do childcare, I saw that I could actually be free from me just being in the house all day, because they have two different kinds of type B and type A. So type B is like when you have 6 kids, type A is when you can have 12. However, you can hire staff so that you can, so long as you work in your hours a week, and you could still hire staff. And so that made it a lot better for me to actually hire some staff, and I could still do both with my youth program and everything. So I had to go through licensing all over again for that. And I had to get zoning approved, had the building inspection. So my home is considered as a commercial home right now. They had to do a full inspection. I had to get so many things differently in my home. I even had to get a new breaker box, and that's expensive.
It
So
sure is.
yes, so I had to get that, and just a few other like miscellaneous things, but and the fire department come out, did their inspection as well. So it's like your home is actually being treated like a commercial building. So once I did that, that's when I just really got the ball rolling as far as me having my girls program. And then for my girls program, boys end up coming into the program as well. So I was just doing them all at the same time. I don't know how. A lot of times I think about it and I'm like, where did you get that energy from? But I was doing it. I was actually maneuvering, and then the money that I was making from my daycare center, I was putting it back into the community with my youth program with the kids.
That's really awesome. And, I think part of it for you is what you're doing, you are so passionate about. When we're doing something that we're really excited about and we feel like gives us meaning, it's a little easier to keep going and work harder. I look back to it, some of the periods of my life where I say, geez, I don't know how I worked that many hours in a day or put in that much time, because I feel like now I couldn't do that. but
Yeah.
but at the time, you have a different perspective, and you're trying to build something, and you're trying to get to a place where you want to be with it. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what about challenges that you faced? Every entrepreneur, I haven't talked to one yet that says, "Oh, I started a business one day, and all of a sudden, I was rolling in money, no problems at all. Everything was so easy." There's always challenges. There's always obstacles. Are there a particular obstacle or obstacles that you faced
Oh,
that you feel were really important that you were able to overcome?
I have a lot of important ones. A lot of them. Even though, yes, I started babysitting in 2008, but in 2012, as me shifting over and me actually turning it into a business and everything, I was broke. I didn't have no money. When I first started, I was only getting paid like a little bit of money. It could barely even pay my bills. So, my mom and aunt, like my aunt had helped me one time because my car had got repossessed. I was not paying my car note because I couldn't afford my car note. And they like, well, you need your car. So she helped me get my car back, and of course I had to pay her back. I had to pay her back. And my mom was helping me with my mortgage during that time. She was helping me out. And even though I'm doing that, I still got girls from my program coming over, and I'm feeding them $5 little Caesar pizzas. And I'm making sure they eat when they come. I'm taking them back home, picking them up, dropping them off, and I had some mentors helping me, and the mentors, they're helping me. So I was giving them a little bit of gas money here and there. I was just ditching out what I didn't have. I was
Yeah.
pouring from an empty cup. Um and as time went by, I started to grow. Everything was growing um like a lot. My finances was like great. I was pouring more into the community with the kids and everything, but I would say my challenges is people. People, I knew I couldn't expect people to love the way I was raised and be loving and caring and have a heart, have a conscience and different things. And so you run into people that misuse you. Um, they don't care about absolutely nothing but themselves. And I never really looked at people as using me. I was doing something that I was called to do. So I passionately did everything that I did for a reason. I didn't look for nobody to give me nothing in return, or it wasn't trying to I didn't try to like throw things in their face or nothing. I did everything I did because it was what I wanted to do. So I never found myself really upset of people's actions. I was becoming more upset with myself by seeing it before it came and not reacting and removing myself before it actually happened. So it was like I was just enduring pain from people. Like I was like some sort of pain freak or something. It was now that I look back at it and I'm just like, oh my God, you was just doing too much. And what I've learned is the more you do for people, the less appreciative you are and you will lose your respect.
That's a really powerful lesson because you were doing something out of the kindness of your heart and out of the love that you felt for the people that you were helping and all that. And your expectation going into that is they're going to feel this and they're going to treat me the same way. And it's unfortunate, but it is a reality of life
Yeah.
that not everybody operates with the same frame of reference. And as you said, there are people that will take literally whatever you give, never give anything back, and never feel bad or think twice about it. And so it's a really important lesson. You can still put your heart into something, you can still care so much, but it is important that you draw lines and that you treat yourself well in addition to treating other people well. So good for you that you saw that you recognized what was happening, and it might have taken you a little bit to take action and say I'm drawing a line here, but you did it. And
Yeah.
that's what's important, because then you can surround yourself with people that have the same set of values, and you'll know that when you invest in them and helping them, that it's going to be appreciated. It's funny because you say that, and I've been in a variety of different businesses over my lifetime, and I can tell you that without a doubt I've experienced the same thing. It's generally the people that would ask for all the extras and the special favors and the things that would cause you to go above and beyond anyway, that then are the ones who don't appreciate it and will walk all over you even more. And so when you don't put up your own guardrail and say, you know what, no, that doesn't work for me, right? Or I don't feel like you're being fair in this situation, then all of a sudden it changes the dynamic, and people that just want to use other people will disappear. Once they
Yeah.
realize they can't do it to you anymore, they'll move on, because or they'll change, because in some cases, in fairness, it's not conscious. They just
Yeah.
don't realize that they're asking for so much. And
Oh,
so
okay.
once you call them on it, or once you say, well, look, here's a boundary, then they'll start to respect it. And so good for you for figuring that out, and having that help change what you were doing. I think it's an important lesson for all of us. Is there a moment in your journey that really you feel shaped you as an entrepreneur, as a leader?
Um, yeah, it's a lot of moments shaped me. I've come to grips that people you can try to take people with you, but that's like completely impossible. I learned a lot from trying to bring people along with me. I learned a lot from people that see you elevating. It's like you're doing something because this is what you want to do, but you don't see yourself as the way other people see you. So as I was elevating, I didn't realize I was elevating. I didn't realize that I was becoming a lot more successful than I was before because I felt like I was doing something I was supposed to do. However, people noticed that I was elevating. So it's like something has to be wrong with this girl. She can't just be so successful. It was like I felt like I was in a point where a lot of people was trying to find something wrong with me for them to be mad at me or upset with me, create narratives and things in their mind that really doesn't exist. It just exists in their own. And I saw people used to say, "You don't know how to run your business. You don't know what you're doing," but you never had one. So how could you tell me anything? So I've learned a lot from that. That shaped me a lot, and it shaped me to a point to not be around certain people, and you can't share things with certain people because they will try to belittle you because you're where they will like to be. That shaped me a lot. And on a business level, going into a building, I had someone reach out to me because I had young kids in my program, and the kids that were in my program, they were in theirs as well. They had a building, and the building was like, it looked terrible. It looked very terrible. It had no like kid. It wasn't kid friendly. It didn't have no type of energy in there when you walked in. So I actually, me going into that building, I gave them a vision of the potential of the building that they had. So with me being in there, I also had my daycare. I ended up opening up another daycare and put it in there as well, and having my youth program in there. It was just kids coming in and out of that building like never before. I had the whole community coming in and out, like a whole community center. And as they started to see the vision, they started to see everything. Um, I noticed that their finances has increased. Things that was getting a lot better for them, which was amazing. It was supposed to. However, you're applying for grants, but you're not including me in it, but you still see me still struggling, and you still see me using my daycare finances to help my kids, but I'm in your building and you're reaping all of the benefits with me having all of my everything in your building, and you're not doing absolutely nothing. You don't have no kids coming in and out. You don't have no youth program or nothing. So they started to utilize the kids that I had and created something for themselves. But they only get like 8 or 10, but I got like 80 or maybe
Wow.
even 100, So I've learned that getting my own building or getting a proper contract and different things like that before I actually go into someone else's building. Um, I'm on that's like another lesson that I had learned a lot along the way, because once they elevated and they got in their own space, they were getting funding like crazy. So it was like like really pushed me out the way and brought their friends in, and now the building is absolutely what I was doing, but they have their own people in there. So they took my whole blueprint and they have something in there now, which I mean that's just what it is. I don't have no bitter feelings about it, but I learned a lot from that. And also during that time when I did leave that building, I lost my mother, and then a year later I had lost my husband. And then
Oh
I
wow.
lost
I'm sorry to
then
hear
I
that.
lost my daycare, my bigger daycare, and I had lost just stopped doing my youth program. So I went in a dark space 5 years ago, and I was dark for a very long time. I probably just really came out of it last year. And those are like the lessons that I've learned in that time of losing everything from 2019 through 2020 when I lost my mom and husband. Um, I figured out that it's me in the end. You don't have nobody. All these people I've helped in the community, and none of them were there. I was alone. I was just by myself, and I went broke again. I didn't have nothing.
That's
I didn't even know how I was going to pay my bills. I didn't have nothing.
that is, I mean, remarkable. There's so much in there. First off, I have to say, I know what you're saying in terms of it's a sad fact that people that are your peers and your friends, if all of a sudden you start to become successful, they have a hard time. It makes them uncomfortable because they're jealous ultimately, right? They're unhappy with their own situation. And it's funny because I've seen this in a variety of different walks of life. It's not always regarding business or even finance, even family stuff. Somebody has kids and somebody else who really wanted kids. And you can tell the character of a person by what they're willing to deal with in terms of what might make them uncomfortable, but is the right thing to do for their friend. So if somebody has something you want, but it's something that they should be proud of and happy about, you could be jealous, but you still, if you're a friend, you have to congratulate them. You have to help them feel good about what they've done, because if you try to tear them down or try to make excuses for their success, you're not really a friend. And at that point, it's like that relationship doesn't make sense anymore. You would want them to feel that way about you. So I've seen that myself, and I totally understand, and I can appreciate, how you'd feel about it. I think you're remarkable
Thank you.
in your strength, and your ability to continually sort of persevere and keep going, despite the fact that you have challenges and issues and things like that. And it's personal when you feel like you're close to somebody and then
Yes.
they aren't there for you when you need them. And
Yes.
that's a really hard thing as well. And then going through that personal loss also is obviously, really, really challenging. But um, you have a great, inner strength about you that you can just feel, which I think is great. I mean, it's a testament to your character and who you are. And I think that's super important, in terms of you might get knocked down, but you'll get back up and you
Oh
just
yeah.
keep going. And I mean, that is the most important thing. The setbacks thing is never something we ever wish for,
I know.
but sometimes if you approach it the right way, you come out the other side of it feeling stronger and more resilient for it. And so, that's all we can do is make the best of the situation that we've got. So, what advice would you give to somebody who is trying to start a business and maybe they have limited resources, they have limited support? Is there particular advice or tips that you could share?
Yeah, it's a lot. One of the things is that I wish I had was a mentor. And I'm not talking about a mentor that doesn't have the evidence of it. You gotta have evidence of this mentor. This mentor has to be someone that is currently successful, doing way more better than you, and you see them do the work. Um, you can't just have any mentor mentoring you. The reason being for that is because you won't find yourself going anywhere. You will find yourself wasting your finances on that. Invest in yourself. A lot of people do not invest in themselves. If you're making money from your business, use that money for going back into your business, and that is you. You always have to make sure that your marketing is on point, your websites, creating courses, create ebooks. It's just so many things you can do aligned with your business of what you're currently doing. Even podcasting, anybody can podcast, but you have to have things to talk about. You have a lot to talk about if you are a business owner. You could talk about your journey. You could start from there. And it's just really investing yourself is so important. Your health is extremely important. A lot of business owners forget about their health. And when it comes to your health, you have to also think about your mental health. Having a therapist is very important while you're a business owner, and have someone to talk to keep you level headed, because you could literally lose your mind. And it's not even a joke when it comes to that, because you're battling so many emotions. You need someone to talk to on how to prioritize that, because it will make you sick and you could die from it. I'm gonna just be honest. And you don't want to do that, because you will find yourself suicidal or anything when it comes to running a business, because we're like the stock market. We go up and down. One minute we're winning, one minute we're losing, and we're ready to pull out. So you really have to be careful with things like that, and making sure you have like that your team is your accountant, your lawyer, your therapist, and whoever your higher power is. I believe in God personally, and whoever your spiritual advisor is, having those things is like extremely important, and making sure you have your ducks in a row financially, because your first 5 to 10 years, you're going to go through different financial changes. You're going to be up one minute, broke the next minute. You got to figure out your high seasons, your low seasons, and you got to be able to maintain that and do not accumulate more bills. Have less bills as possible, and all the things that you love, that you feel like you need, you don't need it. You just need to just chill out and just maintain it, because eventually you will make it and you will be successful. And just believe in yourself, and remove people when you see when they start acting different. Remove yourself from them. Don't give them enough time to actually destroy you. Just leave. They be all right.
Yeah, look, there's a lot there too. And one of the things that you touched on is the fact that as an entrepreneur, it's different than having a job, right? With a job, sure, you can get laid off and that's stressful, but you don't take it home with you the same way. When you're an entrepreneur, your business is part of who you are. And
Mm-hmm.
so, um, what I think a lot of people that don't own a business don't understand is that if you see your business failing, there is something personal about that beyond the finances of it. You know, the finances are devastating in and of itself because if you can't pay your bills, that's terrifying. But on top of that, you're also dealing with the emotional element of the fact that this thing that you tried, this risk that you took, then it starts to make you, you could feel stupid. Like, why did I even do this? I should have just got a job like everybody else does. It could be a really vicious cycle if you don't control your emotions and understand that it does go up and down. And you do have to just sort of, not get too high with the highs, not get too low with the lows. The other thing I love that you talked about there is about having the right team around you, and everybody's going to have their own ideas about who those people are. But the idea of a mentor, I'm with you in this. One of the biggest regrets of my professional career is I never really got a mentor. I had people around me and I had opportunities, but I never invested in any of that. I always believed that getting stuff done was the priority and not relationships. And it wasn't until after when I looked back and I said, my journey was slower than I wanted it to be. It was lonelier than I wanted it to be. And I went through a lot more struggle. There were people that had the answers that I needed. I just didn't reach out. I didn't have anybody saying, hey, let me show you the way, and investing in that and trying to find people like that even. And so those are big mistakes I feel I made. And I would 100% recommend everybody the same thing. Find a mentor because they'll teach you things and help you get shortcuts to ways where not only do you get the answer faster, but
Mm-hmm.
you also endure a lot less loneliness, indecision, and fear throughout the whole process. And I mean,
Yep.
that's where the real power is with that. So So with your brands, I know one of the things that's really big to you is fostering community impact. Why is that important, and how do you sort of build that into what you're doing?
You know what's so crazy? It's funny you asked that question that way. Um, I started giving to people when I was young. My mom used to go grocery shopping, and when she went grocery shopping, I was like, "Oh, this is my chance to feed the kids." So I used to line the kids up. We used to have this real nice big basement. We lived in like a community. So it was like a gated community. It was a whole bunch of kids. And I used to just call them over one by one and they line up it through my mom's back door. And I'm giving out my mom's food that she worked so hard for, raising me and my brother by ourselves. And she barely making it. And I'm feeding kids. And I don't know. I just always, I felt like my childhood was so good. I was blessed with, even though my mom was a single parent, I could say she did a good job with me and my brother's dads as far as family. Me and my brother had our grandparents in our lives on both sides. Her parents and my dad's parents. They were in our lives, so I was able to receive love from grandparents and my mom and my dad. Even I had a stepdad, just having him, I received love from everyone when it comes to that. And I think it was more or less, I thought everyone was like me and I wanted them to feel like what I had. So I always gave it. So I always treated people the way I was being treated. And it's naturally, it's in me. I'm just like a little bit wiser when it comes to it now. With the way my mom tried to teach me and navigate me to do it in a certain way and deal with it a certain way, I had to bump my head a lot of times before I actually got it right. I believe I have it right all the way right now on how I give now, and I'm very careful with a lot of things that I do now, but just giving is just everything to me. I just feel like it's something that God does for us every day. So why not do his work in human form being here on earth?
It's amazing. And again, it's such a powerful lesson. I've always found that when you have a mentality of giving without a full expectation kind of thing, like the whole idea of it isn't to get something back, it's to give because you know that there's by giving value to other people, you also give them meaning. And I think that the irony is that when we focus so much on ourselves and what we need and what we want, we get less of it. We have less of it. It
Mm-hmm.
becomes harder and harder. When we have an outward sort of view and we're willing to help other people without that specific expectation return, like you said, I mean, you have to be wise about it to some extent as well.
Yeah.
But when we do that, the world seems to open up in ways where and I always find that fascinating because when I talk to people that are struggling or I talk to people that aren't where they want to be, their perception is I got to take care of my situation first. And then once I do that, then I can look outward, which I understand. At the same time, if you don't reach out and build relationships at a minimum, it isn't even necessarily that you have to give a lot, but just invest in relationships as
Yeah.
opposed to just doing things, trying to get stuff done. You find that ironically you get to where you're going faster. And so it's interesting how that all works, but it's great, I think, ultimately, because it's a really good lesson to learn. And I mean,
Yeah.
you sort of grew up with just such a big heart, and it's remarkable. But it's also a testament to how you were raised,
Yeah.
because those things come from someplace, right? And we learn our habits, we learn our tendencies and all those other things from our parents, from our grandparents,
Yes.
and faith in your case as well. And so I think that's really powerful. Um, are there lessons that you've learned from mentoring others? So I know now you've sort of, now that you've sort of done your own thing, you're also mentoring others and trying to help them as well. So what lessons have you learned from trying to share it forward that way?
Um, the same way with giving, I had to learn a different form of mentoring because you can mentor someone and they could still come out not appreciating you mentoring them. And you could let out so much information and pour out so much to them, you didn't limit yourself. And I noticed free mentorship is different from paid mentorship. When someone is paying you to for you to mentor them, they value it more. When you mentor for free, you're less valued because it becomes a obligation. Is this is this they'll be like, this is what you are supposed to do for me because I'm here and you're here. So I'm learning to charge. Charging people, holding them accountable, being consistent and organized of your mentorship abilities will make people appreciate you and your services and just who you are as a person even more because it's already in you to give, but if they're paying you to give to them, it makes me give much more, because that's when I know this person really wants it. Because I hope you're not paying for something you really don't want. So it creates a better relationship, and it can become something longevity.
I like that. I'll tell you a funny story. So, to that end, I have been into email marketing since I've been into digital marketing. So, for a long time. And it was very transactional, right? We would always send out affiliate offers and offers with the whole idea. And so I got this idea and I said, what I'm going to do is with this new list that I'm building, all I'm going to do is give free value. I'm going to send out email after email for the first 30 days. I'm not going to put in a link to buy anything, no pitches, no nothing. I made all these really heartfelt emails to try to connect with my audience and give them all these tips and value. I'll tell you a funny thing. On the 31st day, when I sent out an email that had a link in it, I got angry emails in response. I got people replying to the email, unsubscribing, replying, "How dare you send me an offer for something?" Blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, the other lists and the typical lists, all I did was send offer after offer after offer every day.
Hmm.
And they were totally fine. They'd buy stuff, they'd buy affiliate products, no issues whatsoever. The
Wow.
free list where I gave 30 days of free value, on the 31st day when I had the audacity to put in a link and say, hey, if you're interested in this product, I think it can really help you. It's an affiliate link or whatever. I got angry emails.
I
And it's
believe it.
it's it it's a fascinating thing, but you hit on it. When you give something for free, people don't value it the same way. I
No.
don't know if you're familiar at all with Russell Brunson, but
Yes.
he talked at one point about the fact that he had done all this learning when he was younger, and he was doing like a seminar. He was speaking on stage at a small event before he was like the marketing genius that he is nowadays. And so he had all this information and he had compiled all this stuff and did all this research, and it was really good information. And he said, I was talking and people were like whispering and talking back and forth. They weren't even listening to me. And he goes, I couldn't understand it. I spent 3 years putting this information together and these people weren't even listening. He goes, I finally got so mad, I slammed down the thing and I said, I spent 3 years learning all this. And he said, and I just lost it. And I went off about how all the work I put in to learn this. And he goes, the rest of the time, everybody listened and they paid attention. And I learned in that moment that if you don't share with people why they need to pay attention and the
Yeah.
value of what, if you don't create the reason there's a value in what they're getting, they won't value it no matter what it's worth.
Mhm.
And it's a really, really powerful lesson.
It
So
is.
it's amazing because for somebody so young, you learned a lot of lessons. Really, I mean, you really did. Like, and you know, you were smart enough to analyze your situation, and when you weren't getting the results you wanted or things weren't going the way you said, well, why? You looked at it, you figured out what it was that was wrong, and you fixed it.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. I just love that.
Thank
So,
you.
what inspired you to start Life Her podcast and create a platform for sharing your stories of resilience and success?
Well, that was I started it around the time when I stopped mentoring. I stopped mentoring young girls. So my mom was like, why don't you create like a radio show or something? I'm like, radio? I'm like, Mom, I don't do nothing in freaking radio. She was like, well, something. So I was talking to one of my friends and I was just trying to figure out different things. And it's so crazy because I used to see things with like say podcasts, but I never really looked into it. I never listened to any of them. I just wasn't interested, you know. But I end up doing research, looking it up, and I told my mom, I'm like, why don't you join me and we can do this together. I say, you have so much wisdom. Look how much you have taught me. And a lot of women don't even have these type of relationships with their mother either. So we were going to start it together, and I started doing it in 2000. What did I start it? 2018? No, 2000. Yeah, no, 2019 of
Okay.
August. I started the process, and then October of 2019, she ended up passing away. And so once I had everything together, I'm saying like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? And me and my mom was going to start it, but I know her. She like, girl, you better keep going. So, um, the January of 2020, that's when I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna just get things all the way together. I'm gonna get it going how I want to. So I was just like, okay, cool. So I ended up launching it, and it's just been taking off since then. Um, it takes off, but at the same time, I'm still not familiar with it too much. I just do what I want to do and go with the flow. Have amazing conversations with different people. The business part of podcasting, I know how to start it. I know how to do it. I know all of that. But just monetization and doing different things, I'm still learning it. No lie. But
Mhm.
I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy the relationships I have built with people while doing it. I have two mentors now. I have someone doing my email blast for me, and these are people that I've met from podcasting. It has elevated me so much just even talking to them. It has created me to have so many relationships with them. I have relationships still with most of my guests, and they love me, honestly. They love me, they appreciate me, they check up on me, I check up on them. I have to do better with it. From me doing so much, don't going through a lot, it created me to be distant from people, from being hurt so much. So I'm in my era now where I'm letting myself meet people. I'm letting it organically come to me. And from there, I could say my mom been with me this whole time with me podcasting and everything. So I just been making sure I just keep doing what I do. And that's exactly what I've been doing from me podcasting and everything. So that's how it all started. And that's how me podcasting has done a lot for me along the way with me running my business and everything. So it's cool. I love it. And I just love the connection that I have with podcasting when it comes to knowing this was something me and my mom was going to start together. So yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's a really powerful story. And I do think the most important thing with podcasting is authenticity. I'll tell you, when I started my podcast, one of the concerns I had, it actually held me up from starting it, is I believed if I was going to start a podcast for entrepreneurs, I needed to know everything about entrepreneurship and be the best entrepreneur. And then I realized,
No.
no, I don't. All I have to do is
No.
share my story. If I share my
Yep.
story, I share my journey, that's the humanizing element that brings us all together. Because
Yep.
no matter what mountaintop you're on right now, we all started at the bottom and you all have to work your way up. And so, in some ways, the realness of the struggle is more powerful than the brass ring at the top anyway, because
Yep.
until other people have reached it, they can't relate to that anyway. So it's what they strive for, but that was the thing. The light bulb went off one night when I was, laying in bed and I said, what am I waiting for? You know what I mean? Like, let's just go, but part of it for me, I think is I was a little afraid to open up. The authenticity thing means vulnerability, and I'm kind of a private person, so I think that was part of my challenge. And so, but I love what you're doing, and I think that authenticity, and I think just being real, that's where
Yep.
there's value. That's where what people are interested in. And I have no
Yes.
doubt that your guests love you because you just have this great energy about you and great attitude. And so you're impossible not to like. Um,
Thank
so where can people find your products, find your services, connect with you?
you. Everything is Life Her Podcast. You could my website, my social media, any platform, everything is Life Her Podcast. To find me personally, it's Yvette Lloyd or Life Her Vet, but it's two E's. So you could easily find me. It's not hard. I'm very consistent with how I strategize my social medias and everything.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for that. All right. And I have one last question I have to ask because I think it's important. I'm always curious to know what everyone's perspective is going to be. And that is, what's your number one tip for success as a business owner or an entrepreneur?
My number one tip is being yourself. Being yourself is very important. Even though you see people ahead of you, or you see people dressed a certain way, or look a certain way, and doing things certain ways, you have to realize that's for them, and that has nothing to do with you. You just have to walk in your own path and create your own identity for yourself. Just always doing that, you could always win over a lot of people, because sometimes people not even themselves, they're plagiarizing to be other people. So being yourself will always be a win, and you will be extremely successful with being yourself. Just don't be afraid. Fear is like one of the amazing gifts, I feel, because when you conquer that fear, you could conquer anything.
That's great advice. I completely agree, by the way. And so I think that's perfect. Thanks so much. All right, with that, it's just about time to wrap things up. I want to thank you so much again, Yvette, for sharing all your insights and great tips with us. Search for Life Her Podcast to find her podcast to get inspired and empowered on your entrepreneurial journey. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And as always, remember, no matter what you want from your business and your life, don't compromise, optimize.